Welcome to Streams of Income, hosted by best-selling author and entrepreneur Dr. David Powers, where we discuss streams of income, passive income, residual income, and even why there are dinosaurs and zombies in this intro. Fasten your seatbelts and get ready to dive in.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Streams of Income podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you are willing to give me some of your time to listen to either a business lesson or an interview with an amazing entrepreneur. So once again, thank you for listening to the Streams of Income podcast. I hope you enjoyed this episode. All right. I think I finally made it a habit. Usually I don't hit record until after we start talking, and the best conversations about the weirdest things are before the record button. And so here we are with Nic Breedlove of playgroundequipment.com. Or that's the website. That's not the official business name though, right?
Yeah, that's right. We've got multiple businesses. We have playgroundequipment.com. We've got playgrounds.com. We have AAA State of Play. We have NVB Playgrounds. We have a few. All of them in the recreation space.
Man, I've got to imagine you paid a fortune for those domain names. Or did you just luck out and get them early?
I lucked out on playgroundequipment.com. I bought that probably 13, 14 years ago, and it was off a defunct manufacturer. Got it for just over $100,000, and it was one of the first deals that, like, back when GoDaddy was starting their domain acquisition services, and I kind of was one of their first customers.
Wow.
And they did a real good job with me, and then we ended up doing playgrounds.com a couple years later in a kind of a weird deal. It was a 5-year deal with no interest at 140 or 135, somewhere around there. So, I mean, relatively pricey, but not that bad, to be honest. Playground.com, the non-plural version, sold for several million, I believe, last year because it was an AI purchase.
Oh, that's right.
Just endless.
Man, that's crazy. So, I mean, as far as streams of income goes, domain name sale and resale is still a viable thing. It's just harder to get a good one.
It is, and those names are going on, 40 years old, some of them that I have now, and it's just crazy that they've been around that long, and there's still such a huge demand for it, and, it's one of those marketplaces where you kind of saw all those subdomains and those new niches come out, and they just don't have the same flavor for the marketplace.
Yep. Yeah, I'm thinking, man, if I could go back 40 years and buy NFL.com or something like that.
No kidding. Yeah.
Yep.
It's a lot.
All right. So now that we've talked domain names, I want to talk about your early life before we dig into the current business with the playgrounds and everything. So you're in playgrounds now. So I want to know where Nicholas started at, like first job, and kind of give us a rundown of your first job on up into, the founder of a playground company.
Shoot, yeah, sure. My first job, I was thinking about that the other day. I think I worked at I was at a library. I was probably 6 years old selling books at the library book sale. And from there, and I had probably a job every year of my life since. But I think from there, I worked at a clothing shop. I sold men's fashion, if you want to call it that. Stacey Adams, if you wanted a nice colorful suit with a cane and a top hat to go to church with, I was your guy, right? I sold that for a couple of years. I was a caddy when I was probably 12 until I was about 18. I caddied a bunch of different guys, ran the golf club, and then I decided maybe a bad idea, and I went to college for a little bit. It's just not for everybody,
Yeah. So what do you major in, though, that moves you to playgrounds? Or did you major in business?
I majored in horticulture business management.
Okay, well, that's kind of relatable.
Yeah, it's interesting. One of my aunts and uncles, they own a big nursery here in Indianapolis, and that's where I'm located now. But they were kind of like my inspiration growing up. I was seeing this, my aunt and uncle, they worked together for so long, and they loved what they did, but they also worked together, which is in itself, as I've grown older, an unimaginable feat sometimes, like to be able to work with your spouse, be
Yeah.
successful at it, and not,
And be happy.
yeah, to be happy. I mean, that's a lot of things to happen that as a kid you see it and you're like, wow, I'm going to imprint myself on that. And then the reality of the world is much different than that. Finding
Yeah.
somebody that also wants that same thing and to be a part of it and to be a part of that initial journey. So that's a lot to ask out of somebody.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. And so, how in the world playgrounds? Like, what
Yeah.
brought that on the horizon at all?
I almost got there. So we were
Okay.
graduated college out of Colorado State. Finally, I dropped out for a minute, and my dad he was selling.
Wait, Colorado State, is that the where Deion Sanders is at now?
He's at Colorado University,
Okay, okay. So we
or
can still be friends
University of
then.
Colorado, one or the other. CU. He's at CU.
Yeah,
I was at CSU. A lot of CUs.
yeah.
So graduated there with horticulture and came back home, and I was like, I didn't want to do anything with that. My dad was selling clothing for a long time, and a lot of those guys in that industry they were leaving. The box stores were going direct to a lot of factories, and they didn't really need salespeople anymore. They didn't want to pay them, so a lot of guys went out. And one person in particular, he tried to get my dad to sell playground equipment. Don't know why. And he got a lot of these guys to sell playground equipment. And
Huh.
now we still do business with that gentleman. His son, actually, it's second generation at this point, but he's one of my customers on the distribution channel side. So they got me involved and got my dad involved. My dad wasn't involved very much, maybe 2 or 3 years into it, and he was kind of done.
Yeah.
He had served in the army and he was suffering from Agent Orange, so he was just kind of trying to take a little bit easier life at the end there before he passed. But he ended up living a lot longer than he thought he would. But
Yeah. Yeah, my dad's a Vietnam vet too. Those guys went through a lot.
yeah, they sure did. But so he was with me for a little bit, and we grew it. We were driving around in a truck and trailer at first. It looked like a carnival. I don't know what part of the country are you from, Doctor?
I'm in South Carolina.
South Carolina. So
Yeah, we have those pop-up carnivals.
yeah, well, it looks similar to that, except with playground equipment on the back. And
Yeah.
all these guys, they start in Falkville, Alabama, and it's right there near Culver, which is where there's a giant spaceship. If you're ever out traveling on 65, it's where when they brought over the Germans after World War II, they developed the engines to go to with NASA. So there's this big space thing there. Everybody recognizes it when they're traveling. But that's where all these rink-a-dink little playground equipment that go on back of trailers, that's where they make them all. And we got started there, and then I was like, this is ridiculous. I'm spending all my time calling, and calling because it was just cold calling. And it was not a lot of.
That's rough.
It's rough. It's a rough life, and it was all on credit. So you're selling on credit and then hoping to collect later. Not a great business plan, to be honest. But slowly but surely, I was introduced to the internet very quickly. I knew that I thought, wow, nobody else is doing this. There was one competitor online, and they were out of Indiana as well. And it was around 2006. Because we're going on 20 years this year. And within that first year of doing business, I started a website, and the other guys went out of business about a year later, and I became the only person online selling. And it just gave me a huge competitive advantage for a long time. Yeah. And it allowed me entry into the marketplace. We were able to buy playgroundequipment.com. I knew that I wanted to start other brands. I knew that, all of the brands that I was doing business with, because at this point I was drop shipping from probably 15 or 20 other manufacturers. I knew all I needed to do is make my customer service just a little bit better than theirs, which wasn't that big of a feat. So it was one of those things where I was like, now there's been times where I haven't been this much better. And that's, that's the tricky part of thinking that you know what you're doing. But, we became a manufacturer essentially. So we were importing from all over the world. We have warehouses in Savannah, Houston, Indianapolis. We've got about 160 employees, and keep growing. It's been a lot of changes over the years. I will say, probably for the first 8 years, we were cooking lunch for every employee. We would cook lunch until I think we were about 60 people. We were cooking a lunch every day.
Yeah.
So, we came from a very modest beginning, I would say, and then we just kept growing and growing and growing.
But that's pretty cool. And you talk about 1% better. I've got my daughter reading a book right now. I'm trying to put my phone on vibrate because I always forget that. But I got my daughter reading a book right now by Jeff Olson, and the whole premise of the thing is just 1% better at every day or just at what you do, and you'll be so much better than the majority of people. I mean, it doesn't take a 10x leap to be better.
It does not take 10x. It just takes a little bit, little piece. Yeah. And that's, if you keep asking yourself, what is one thing I can do better than my competitor tomorrow? You don't have to be better at all of it. Just a few pieces here and there, and all of a sudden you're really good at a lot of things.
Yeah. I love the aspect of the family business, though. Even businesses that became much bigger, like yours is now. I love that aspect of, working with your dad for a while and then continuing that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's been fun. We've had I will say the only family members that I've enjoyed working with. One uncle, he stuck around for 19 years. He retired last year. He did really well. And then my parents, and then my wife now, she's working with me. But I've had probably 30 or 40 cousins and uncles and aunts that have worked for me, and they've not done too well. I think my expectations and theirs are a little differing at times. Yeah,
and they're family too, so they're harder to fire sometimes too.
I don't find that. I usually just push it off on my now wife. She's fired at least 3 of my cousins in the last couple of years. Yeah, they unfortunately, like the work ethic and stuff like that. I find it difficult that they think they don't have to hold themselves quite as accountable as maybe they need to.
Yeah. No, I do get it, because as much as I like family business, I grew up working in my dad's construction business, and when I started managing it for him, I finally just told my dad at some point, don't hire any more family and quit hiring people from church, because it's usually just people that are looking for a job, not looking to be a part of an occupation. They're just looking to make money for a little bit until something better came along.
Yeah.
All right. So all right, so I want to talk playgrounds, because I've got 5 kids, and I'm sure we've played on a bunch of years. And because anytime we travel, it's like, what are we going to do to kill some time? Oh, there's a playground. And so we'll play for hours and try our best to not break it while we're there. And so how many of these playgrounds, I'm assuming most of them are institutional, like churches, schools, parks, or do you have private folks building these dream house playgrounds? Because that's what I want to do someday.
Yeah, all of the above, really. I'd say the private dream house stuff it's there. We've done founders of billion-dollar brands and, celebrities and all sorts of different things. We used to do a lot of TV when TV was a lot bigger than it was. We would do Law and Order. We would do One Tree Hill. I think it was the final season. There was a merry-go-round and Chad Michael Murray's on it, right? Well, we had to drive
that's pretty cool.
We had to drive that down to the set there in Wilmington or wherever it was. And, we've got a million of those little stories where we've helped somebody get their whatever for, 30 Rock or variety of that kind of stuff. But when it comes to institutional, I'd say 99%, if more or more, is institutional. We probably do literally a handful a year that are not the backyard. Not a lot of people really want to spend, 30 to 80,000, but when they do, they end up spending a lot more than that, right?
Yeah.
And I do remember a job maybe last year, the year before last, and a guy put one in, and it was as big as his house, and after it was finished, he asked them to clean it every month. And you're
Wow.
talking like cranes and,
Yeah.
that's a lot of work to
Yeah.
come out there to, just be able to window wash a playground. It sounds a little bit insane, to be honest. But yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, one of our, although we do sell playgrounds, one of our biggest growing pieces of our business is right now it's software. We do a lot of we do monitoring, so we do more of a lot of our competitors know us as playgroundequipment.com, and we import a lot of different products and we resell them, and we have around 200 distributors in the US that sell that brand. We also have AAA State of Play, which is a direct market, but our biggest growing group right now is playgrounds.com, and that is a SaaS product. Essentially, it's, you're a parent, you're at a playground, and you scan a QR code. If you see a problem, scan a QR code, and you send an issue right into the school or the park or the HOA or
Huh.
wherever you're at, and it allows them to react a lot quicker than they have in the past. So I think that it's one of the things that I'm passionate about is the amount of injuries there are, and the way the system's built. Like, people spend inordinate amount of money on these playgrounds, but they don't remember that there's a year 2 and a year 3 and a year
Yeah.
4. It's like it would be the comparison would be buying a car and forgetting that you had to have maintenance. And
Yeah.
the difference is that that you need maintenance on your car, and the average playground buyer buys one playground ever, right? They're a part of a board, they're part of how many times, let's just pretend like you're on your church board or wherever your group your community is. One time, maybe
Yeah.
in your life, which means as a company, I have to educate you, but also, and that's difficult because we have to educate somebody once in their entire life, but then also we have to, protect those kids and everything that goes along with it. So that is what I'm passionate about right now is the playgrounds.com product. I kind of came up with the idea. I was reading that Second Mountain book. I forget the name of the author, but essentially just, life's journey, where it takes you once you've eclipsed that first mountain of your life, whether it be work or otherwise, and what is it that you are also passionate about in life. And for myself, it was trying to figure out why in the heck are there so many kids supposedly that are hospitalized every year. I think it's 400,000. So
Oh, wow.
that's where I was going with it, and that's kind of the reasoning behind it.
Yeah, I love the business model though, because I mean, I was reading earlier in a book called Dirt Rich, and he was talking about the perfect business. And two of the things that he mentioned is you sell a product, but then you find a way to make recurring income off the product. And you're not only making the recurring income, but you're also making kids safer. So that's kind of a win-win.
Yeah, it's one thing that this industry, it's like for me, like the internet was the first piece. Nobody was online. Now everybody's online. If the
Yeah,
manufacturer doesn't have a shop and a store, they're out of business. So that competitive advantage, should you say, is gone. For me, it was also one of those things where what else can I build in that nobody else is doing? And that's it right there. Like, they have no care or aftermarket service to their own product.
yeah,
So I'd love to be a part of that for and it doesn't matter if it's my brand or anybody else's brand. I just want to help make sure that we keep them all as safe as possible.
yeah, absolutely. And I was watching the on your website the Story of Us video earlier, and it mentioned some of that stuff about most kids are hurt with impact with the ground. And you guys even do that part too, right? As far as the ground cover.
Yeah, absolutely. We pick on surface. I think that I'd say that probably 50% or more of the injuries that happen is because of surfacing, which is funny because you look at an old picture from probably the 50s or 60s of a playground, and there's no surfacing anywhere. Surfacing is concrete,
Yeah,
and is it just more reporting? What is really driving the results of all these
kids were
statistics?
tougher.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I think that's an easy answer. I just
Yeah,
don't. I don't know if it's kids are tougher or parents are not as tough as they need to be.
Yeah, there you go.
There's like a variety of factors at play there, but it's like, how are there so many injuries now when there are so many options? There's mulch, there's poured in place rubber, there's rubber mulch, there's all sorts of different options in the world. How's it that it just keeps growing? It's just interesting to me, and
Yeah.
it's something that can be solved. It takes a lot of work.
Oh yeah. Which is your favorite? I like the rubber mulch. That's my favorite.
Yeah, rubber mulch is a really cool product. I've been able to see it manufactured a lot. When I first started, I'd say probably 5 or 6 years in, there was a company out of Mississippi we were going to purchase into, and they were making it out of inner tubes. So it was a inner tube tire, which is a different type of tire, or it's a different type of piece of the tire. So when they recycle those tires, they use every little piece of that product goes back out in the world, whether it's the metal, the bearing, all of it, right?
Yeah.
And it's really interesting to see them break those tires down into literally dust.
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty neat. And I love the idea of just reusing it constantly instead of, I mean, around here, I live in a rural area, and you drive by places and you'll see stacks and stacks of tires where people just throw them out in the wood. I mean, I found quite a few in the woods where I bought this little farm. The guy had a tractor trailer shop, and I used some of them for exercise, and then I've just got piles of them sitting here.
They charge too much to take them back, to be honest. I mean, in all honesty, I mean, they charge for them. The state pays them to pick them up, and then they charge the customers to sell them again. So it's like they make the money 3 times. How many is enough,
Yeah. Yep.
No offense to like the guys that I'm also doing business with, but like, how many times is it enough to make money on that one tire?
Yeah. Yep. All right. So big question here. What's your favorite playground you've ever built? Like the biggest or the best, or just your favorite?
I think my favorites are the ones with stories, I mean, like, when I think of my favorite as a kid, I go back to where I went to grade school. I went to grade school up in the border of Wisconsin and Illinois, and I was at Prairie Hill, and I remember that playground. It was a dirty old rusty playground, and I remember one of my buddies, his Brock, he fell out of a geodome climber and bit a piece of his tongue off, right?
Oh.
And I remember the rocks and the blood, and I remember all that, and it forever imprinted in my head, that moment in time. And I remember afterwards, me and Brock would go by in the summertime, and we would paint with that like gooey red paint, and we would paint a bunch of rocks just to keep the story going that his blood rocks were still there, right? Because because it was ridiculous. But fortunately, they got his tongue back together. But that's memorable for me. But from the business perspective, I mean, we've done huge playgrounds, $1 million plus playgrounds, and they're not they're not as memorable as they should be necessarily, because it's more about like the logistics and operationally how to get it done. And there's a lot of challenges within each playground like that, and usually I'm not a part of it, so it's hard for me to really tell those stories. I'd say within the first 5 years of business, we did business up in way up north in Alaska at Fort Richardson Air Force Base, right? And we did 7 truckloads of equipment. And I remember the time difference was a killer, which was fun, but also trying to get equipment up there. I didn't know what an ice road was, right? And I certainly didn't know that I only had a certain amount of time to travel on it. And then I certainly didn't know that I'd have to go by barge if I didn't make it. So once we finally got these 7 truckloads up there, then the guy starts installing, the guy at the base, and he installs the first playground. And this thing is like a triple story. You're talking, what is that, 8, 16, almost 30 feet tall.
Wow.
And the top of the post was sticking out of the ground about a foot. And I said, what is that? And he's like, that's the top of the post. And he buried the rest of the post in the ground because that's what he thought he needed to do. I don't know if it's a frost line or what was going on. But then at that point, I was like, well, we need to figure out like how much extra length all of these posts need because I didn't think about, how deep do they need to dig a footer in
Yeah.
Alaska? I didn't
Get through
think
the
about
permafrost.
something like that. Yeah, I had no idea. I didn't think about that. So it's more about the learning curves in
Yeah.
life and the delicate situations of trying to sell a product that goes in the ground. You learn a lot about what you don't know, and you don't always want to know in a lot of different areas, whether it's red clay or, whether it's
Yeah.
sand.
That's what we got where I'm at.
Yeah, I know. That's why I said red clay.
Yeah.
You never know what you're going to get. You never know what rock you're going to uncover. And we do a lot of installs, so it's just one of those things where that's how probably the first 7 or so years I was on an install crew myself, with a bunch of people. So I would have my laptop in one hand, coding the website, and on the other hand, I'd be holding up a leveling stick and
Yeah.
helping them plumb up some posts. And, so I've seen it all, done it all. I've traveled all over, and I'd say that those are my favorite stories, are the ones where I was traveling, or the ones where I learned a hard lesson, real hard lesson.
That's pretty fun, though. All right, so kind of on that note, as far as learning lessons, you guys do software now that designs the playgrounds. Like people can call in and your folks will design something awesome, like with their specs and everything.
Absolutely, yeah. So, I'm really passionate about software, but more so lately, I'd say that the amount of AI and tech that's out there in the world right now, you can, even a layman like myself, I was able to vibe code out an entire e-commerce site from nothing in about 2.5 weeks. But like playgrounds.com was vibe coded. I did that myself in about 3 weeks.
Wow.
And I think that the amount of tech that's out there right now, it makes it easier than ever for entrepreneurs to like create something.
Yeah.
That otherwise you would have needed multiple integrations. You would have needed developers and so many different things, right? Like we use an ERP, it's called Acumatica. We wanted to be able to integrate the website, one of our websites, to that, and they wanted, I don't know, $70,000 to integrate it. It took me about 2 days with the tools between Claude Code, between Claude, between Replit, all of these different tools, and, so when it comes to design and designing playgrounds, it's very similar, we're able to integrate AI through the Banana, through Google's Banana, Nano Banana. They've got that image thing, and we're able to really, within seconds, upscale an image, put children in it, put backgrounds, change the colors. And what would have otherwise, taken hours will now take just a few clicks. And, the benefit to that is obviously velocity. When it comes to sales, your sales velocity is what matters. And if you can get in there, and by the time their coffee's cooling down, that you have their project finished, man, that's a big advantage. And so I think that's kind of another aspect of where our competitive advantage will be growing in the next couple of years, and it will stay there for a while because the rest of the industry is very slow to uptick that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yep. All right. So this is kind of for personal edification. If I ever get through Indianapolis, do you guys have like a, I don't know, like a test playground or anything out there we can come and visit, or? Or is it just the factory?
We've got about a 270,000 square foot building, and it is a boring building, but you're welcome to stop by. And if we have a playground installed, because we do some IPMA testing, so we do a lot of testing. Like we have independent lab testers that are there next week, actually, but we have to assemble a bunch of stuff, and then they go in and try and break it, and then they move on. But
man, this sounds like a job for my kids.
Yeah. It should be. Instead, it's for a bunch of grown adults with hammers and giant anvils.
All right. So as we get ready to close out, I always like to ask everybody, if somebody walked up to you and said, "Hey, I need some resources just to be successful in life," if you could name your top 3 resources, like maybe books that have a permanent place on your shelf, that kind of thing, what would your go-to be?
My top three resources in life would be I would say my wife. She is the biggest supporter in a lot of things, and it's difficult. Marriage is challenging as heck, as all relationships are. But I'd say that she is easily one of the easiest to say. Having her support is makes everything a lot better. Because entrepreneurship sucks. I
Yeah.
would say I'm in a group called Wayfinders, and we do a lot of travel adventures. I love traveling. Like I've been to Africa and Laos, and last year I was in Chile, Argentina, a few different places. And I'm there with a bunch of entrepreneurs, and I think there's a lot of benefit in putting yourself in circumstances where otherwise you don't have your normal, right? I
Yeah.
love I love my certain zone, and I love control. I love to be able to control my circumstances, and when you go on these trips, you lose all that, and I think there's a
Yeah.
real benefit in that. And I met a
I find
bunch
I
of
can, when I do stuff like that, I can get back to creativity a little better too.
100%. It's just it allows my brain to think again, and it really allows me to be more in touch with the person I really am.
Yeah.
And I'd say the last thing is a version of that would be surrounding yourself with as many people that entrepreneurs that are really truly better. I know I hate walking into a room and thinking that I'm even close to being this, the person everybody needs to be looking up to.
Yeah.
And that's how it was for me for a long time. And I think that was a net negative for me, right? Like if I had the right group, but I
Mhm.
tried a few groups, they didn't work out. But instead of quitting on that, I probably should have kept trying to find some more.
Yeah.
So finding
I've heard
that
that
right.
said before, though. If you ever find yourself like the top tier in the room, it's time to find another room. Like that's when it's time to leave.
I believe that is 100% accurate. I think it's one of those things where it doesn't allow you to be challenged and really grow the way you need to. So
Yeah. Yeah. And if you're speaking with not, I mean, I guess that could sound conceited, but truthfully, if you're working on the better room for yourself, it also, you can be more intentional about speaking to people that can use your help instead of just being in a crowded room.
100%. I think there's a lot of value that you can offer as an entrepreneur in regards to your experience and helping everybody succeed. There's no doubt. But when it comes to your own personal development, I think you got to look outside that room.
Yeah. Yep. Definitely. Definitely. All right. Any final words of wisdom for us other than get out and
Uh,
play?
I mean, go get out and play and take some, to let your tits go take some risks on the playground,
Yeah. Yeah, and I'll mention too. I'll put the links in the show notes. But you also wrote a book called The Biography of Play, and
Yes,
that's
sir.
on Amazon. People can check it out, and of course the website if they want to buy a playground.
Yes, sir. Thank you
Yeah,
very much for having me, man.
yeah. Thanks for being on.
Great talk.
Hey, everybody. Before we close out, first of all, I hope you enjoyed that podcast, whether it was an interview with an amazing entrepreneur or a business lesson for me. I sincerely hope that you gained something from it that you can use in your life moving forward. Before I leave, though, I need to mention that this podcast is sponsored by Lowe's Home Improvement Stores. I have become a Lowe's creator. It's a pretty cool thing because on this farm, I mean, I'm looking out the window right now and seeing all the things that I want to do around here. Most of these things I can do with products from Lowe's Home Improvement. And so I'm excited to be a Lowe's creator. If you want to check out some things from them and order some stuff and see my specially curated Lowe's storefront, you can click in the show notes. There's a link there for you. And I hope you build some amazing things. And hey, you know what? If you do, send me pictures. I would absolutely love to see the amazing things that you're building at your house using Lowe's products or anything else, really. I'm just curious. I want to know everything about you and everything about the cool projects you're doing because I'll be honest with you, I get some neat ideas for things I want to do at my house as well. All right, y'all take care. Thanks for listening.